I'm Sanks, co-founder of Recall, your AI encyclopedia, and we just ranked as product of the day on Product Hunt, and we're growing over 100% month on month with little to no CAC. Meet Jason Patel. He's a tech entrepreneur, a founder, and a YouTuber. He listens to podcasts like Huberman Lab, watches Bloomberg Tech, and reads The Verge. But with his 60-hour work week, he struggles to stay on top of his interests until he found Recall. It's Monday, and he has a luxurious 25 minutes to spare between meetings. So he decides to catch up on the latest news. Using the Recall browser extension, articles are summarized in seconds, with keywords extracted and enriched to give him a quick yet informative overview of topics for the day. Next, he heads to Twitter, where he sees Huberman has launched yet another trending 2-hour-long podcast. With 15 minutes on the clock, he summarizes the video in less than a minute and listens to the audio replay of the summary while he catches up on his Slacks. Since he enjoyed the episode, he decides to save it into his Recall knowledge base, where it is automatically categorized and connected to all other saved cards using a graph database. Now, this unlocks connections he otherwise wouldn't have seen. This episode mentions resveratrol, which is also mentioned in an episode that he listened to several months ago by Dr. David Sinclair on longevity molecules. With 1 minute on the clock, he switches to the mobile version of the app, where he runs a little Recall quiz to re-jog his memory of the content while he walks to his next meeting. He enters with a great conversation starter. Jason is a real customer. He uses Recall every day. It helps him quickly condense important information and gives him peace of mind, knowing that he can come back to it again in the future. We're B2C SaaS with 2 subscription tiers, soon to launch an enterprise edition. We have over 800 paying customers with core profiles as academics and executives. We've just crossed 145K in revenue run rate, and 80% of our acquisition is through organic channels. While there is competition in the space, we differentiate with a focus on resurfacing content, and that's done through our graph database. Our go-to-market plan is focused on organic growth through SEO. We have a bot that scrapes trending content, summarizes it, and publishes it to our Recall library, which we then link to on strong domains like Reddit, which enable us to indirectly rank for thousands of keywords. We plan to reach 1 million in ARR in the next year, and that's through product iteration and sustained growth. From there, we actually have a pull into the B2B segment, as 58% of our current paying customers are using Recall at work. And so we have growing demand for features like multiplayer mode and shared workspaces. And from there, we realize our full vision as the ultimate content recommender. Think Spotify made for you playlist, but for all your online content. We're a resilient and balanced team of 3. I have over 7 years of experience of hypergrowth at Uber. Paul's been working with graph databases for years in the cybersecurity industry, and Igor is a 10x engineer. He can literally build anything. All of our development is in-house. That's Recall, your AI encyclopedia.
All right, thanks. Well done. Let's take 2 questions. Claire, let's start with you. Question for Sanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, very interesting product, and I can definitely see myself being a user. My question is around the enterprise model, since we mentioned you're planning to expand into that. So when do you plan to do so, and how would you go to market with the enterprise model?
All right, thanks. And Elisa, how about you?
Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about the competitive mode, both for the individual version as well as the enterprise version as well. Thanks.
For sure. I'll start with your question, Claire. On B2B, it was the when and the how. I'll talk a little bit more about the product. So the way we think about Recall is we have a single goal for our customer, and that's getting them smarter, faster. And when we think about that, we think about breadth of content, depth of content, and actual utility and retention of content. And that actually expands really nicely into B2B. When you think about breadth, you can think about bulk upload of content. When you think about depth, we have an individual knowledge graph that I've showed you, but imagine a company knowledge graph. And then even when you think about utility and retention, we're thinking about more employee-led quizzes. And so in terms of when, we plan to launch, soft launch an enterprise edition by the end of the year. In terms of how, we actually want to leverage our existing users who are actually using Recall for their work purposes. And we actually want to lean on them to iterate on our product and then to then grow from that perspective. So that's really our focus for B2B. For the second question, which was on the competitive landscape, both for B2C and B2B, I think for both, what I'll talk about is the knowledge graph. And while you might have heard about knowledge graphs when you think of Rome or Obsidian, those are actually manually created knowledge graphs. Whereas with Recall, we're actually the only player at the moment that has an automatically created knowledge graph. So that's one moat. And then the second that I'll talk about is utility of content. Often when you think about knowledge management, it's this beautiful library that you've curated, that you've stored, but what about the utility? What about coming back and extracting consistent value? And I think that focus and that element of Recall is where our moat starts to become really interesting. But yeah, thank you.